right, we're back and we're going to learn about obesity. So you can see up here on the screen, we have the BMI chart. BMI stands for body mass index. You can see the formula down below. You don't need to know the formula. You can go in, download an app, go on a website, punch in your information and get all of this stuff, instantly and find out where you classified. You can see them up on the screen there. So when we take a look at BMI, BMI is basically a height to weight ratio. This is good for about 95% of people, maybe even more. There are some certain outliers that BMI will not be great with. Individuals that have lost a limb, BMI is not going to work for. Pregnant women, BMI is not going to work for. Athletes that are extremely muscular, bodybuilders, football players, boxers, it's not going to work for. And the reason why that is because it doesn't take into account the size of muscle that someone may have. So for individuals that are in that situation, most likely they're going to use what's called body fat percentage. This is a much more accurate way of measuring somebody's obesity and how prevalent or the increased risk of certain diseases might be for that person. Hydrostatic weighing is the most accurate. This is when a person goes underwater and they blow out all the air underwater and they weigh themselves with a scale inside of a pool. You compare the weight that they have on land to the weight in the water. The closer those numbers are together, the lower their body fat percentage is. And the reason why that is because fat is buoyant. It floats. So if someone has more fat, they're going to be much lighter in the water compared to what they are on land. Someone that has a lot of muscle, they're more dense. They're going to sink. In water, they're going to be heavier. Now, you're not going to find these, just at some random place. You're not going to go to like a swimming pool and be like, hey, I'm trying to use your hydrostatic weighing machine. They're going to look at you like you're crazy. In most cases, hydrostatic weighing are only in universities and scientific labs where, they're going to be utilizing this. It's the most accurate. It's the most expensive. It's, the biggest. It's something that isn't necessarily so functional for the general society. Bioelectrical impedance is probably the easiest to use. It's a device that sends an electrical impulse through the body. It measures how quickly the electrical impulse goes from the device through your body and then back to the device. In order to get an accurate reading, you have to make sure that you are fully hydrated. If you're not fully hydrated, the accuracy of the test is going to diminish. It's going to take a lot longer for that electric to go through your body. If you're dehydrated, it's going to read that you have much more body fat. So that's not good. You want to make sure that there's consistency when using any of these tests. The bioelectrical impedance is off by 5% either way in most cases. And you may think, well, that's a 10% swing. Probably not great to use, but you can still use a bioelectrical impedance even though it's not completely accurate, as long as you use the same one. So if the deviation is, say, 4%, every time you measure with that particular device, it's going to be 4%. One of the things that people often have a tendency to do is they'll use one body fat percentage or even a scale. This works for the scale too. They'll go on one scale, maybe their home scale, and they'll be like, all right, I weigh 160. And then they go on their neighbor's scale, and maybe they're at their friend's house or something. Like, let me step on the scale. And then the scale says, oh man, I just lost 10 pounds. Did you really lose 10 pounds in an hour and a half? You didn't. The reason why that is because the discrepancy of the devices is different. So whenever you're trying to gauge progress, you always want to use the same device. Skin fold, all right, the areas of the body that skin fold measures are different for males and females. So for males, they're going to measure the back of the tricep, the back of the calf, the corner of the chest, back behind the shoulder blade, and they're going to use a lot of those areas as well. For females, they're not going to use the chest area, however. But what you do is you measure the amount of fat that you pull away from the muscle in that area. It's very invasive. It's not very comfortable. It is very accurate, though. If someone is trained in skin fold and they know how to do skin fold, this is extremely accurate based off of the scale. So you take these numbers, take these measurements, how much fat you're pulling away from the muscle, put them into a formula. Formula spits out the information. It'll tell you how much body fat you have. Now, why is body fat percentage more reliable than BMI? Now, we already kind of talked about that. Body fat percentage measures the amount of body fat you have. That's really going to be the biggest factor when it comes to obesity-related diseases. So again, if someone is extremely muscular, they might be really fit. They go out running all the time, but they're muscular, they're big, they're strong. BMI is going to tell them that they're obese. Back when I was younger, I was probably in my early teens. Evander Holyfield was the heavyweight champion. And I remember reading in Men's Health. I was big into bodybuilding and such back then, so I would read all the magazines, try to get as much information as I could. And it talked about how Evander Holyfield, who had like 4% body fat, was obese based off the BMI scale. And it talked about, the problems with BMI for that particular group of individuals. And that article just sticks out in my head. It's just something that I just remember very clearly. When you think about that, it makes sense because someone that is big and muscular, they're going to be heavy, but they're not going to have a lot of body fat. So we're going to take a look at this chart here. We have women and men. We have the underfat, healthy, overfat, and obese for both women and men. As you notice, men typically carry less body fat than women. Healthy range for men in your age group would be 8 to 19%, and for women, 21 to 33%. So obesity at a young age, this is something that is very important. When someone is obese when they are young, especially young kids that are still growing, going through puberty, the body actually has a tendency to increase the number of fat cells. When you gain weight as an adult, the fat cells that you currently have just enlarge. So someone that's obese when they are young, they have a higher tendency of being obese as an adult because they just have more fat cells. So that's something to keep in mind. That's why it's so integral for young people to be active, to move around, to not eat too many calories per day, to not be in a huge calorie surplus. You want to maintain that weight at a young age because it has vast repercussions in the future in your life. So some health problems associated with obesity. Diabetes is one of the number one things that correlates with obesity. So the body's ability to create and use insulin properly, that's what we talk about when we talk about diabetes. Insulin is a hormone that's secreted by the pancreas that unlocks the cell so that sugar and starches and other foods can be taken out of the bloodstream and broken down and stored. So type 1 diabetes is typically hereditary. This is when the body just doesn't create insulin. People with type 1 diabetes will typically have to take a shot of insulin in order to regulate their blood sugar. They can also do so through their diet. So a combination of the two oftentimes can help them. Type 2 diabetes, this is when a person builds up a resistance to insulin combined with relative insulin deficiency. So they may be insulin deficient and they may have a resistance to it, meaning that the body doesn't respond to it. Most Americans who are diagnosed with diabetes have type 2 diabetes. This is the most common, the most prevalent. It's also lifestyle induced, meaning that someone who is obese, someone that isn't active, they have a much higher tendency to develop type 2 diabetes. And you can change that. You can drastically decrease, your chance of getting type 2 diabetes by just being active and maintaining a healthy diet. Living with diabetes, increasing your activity level. This is big. Little to no insulin is needed to pass the sugars through the cell for storage. When you are active, your body views physical activity as a stress. Your body always wants to keep homeostasis. Activity level is going to help you and allow you to maintain your sugar levels inside of your blood. You also burn that sugar off. You utilize it when you're active. So being active is, it's an amazing thing that can really help combat diabetes along with your diet. So changing your diet to maintain your steady blood glucose levels is important. All right, so a diet high in simple or complex carbohydrates. I'll let you marinate on that one for a second. Complex carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates digest much more slowly. They're introduced to the bloodstream more slowly. And if you're going to consume carbohydrates throughout your diet, complex are going to be more beneficial for someone with diabetes because they want to avoid that that sugar spike in their blood because the body doesn't respond well to insulin. So that sugar is going to build up with simple carbohydrates. Steady levels, again, will help decrease the onset of diabetes complications. So you have nerve damage, eye damage, kidney, blood vessel damage. The body can get pretty ravaged from diabetes over time if somebody doesn't take care of it. Safe weight loss programs are extremely important. If you're in this situation, make sure you contact a doctor before you start any particular diet to help manage your diabetes. Your doctor will have the best information. Please do not just go online and find some random workout program or some random diet, especially, that's going to try to help with your diabetes. If you're diabetic, make sure you consult with your doctor. It is also important to remember that you're not alone. There are so many people, especially in this country, that are living with diabetes. We have some other risks as well to obesity. Some of these cancers increase in their likelihood for someone who is obese. We have esophagus cancer, pancreas, colon, rectum, breast, endometrium, kidney, thyroid, and gallbladder. And this information comes from the government's cancer website at cancer.gov. And you can check out some more information if you want to at the link right there. So we're going to talk about calories. We already talked about calories. We're going to talk about calories when it comes to losing weight. And you see lipids. Lipids is another term for fat. So the reason why I purposely use the word lipids here, because you may be reading certain medical journals or maybe even some more advanced health magazines, and they may use the term lipids instead of fats. I just want you to know that they are the same thing. So lipids, 9 calories per gram, proteins, 4 calories per gram, carbohydrates, 4 calories per gram. Again, your fats, proteins, carbohydrates, they contain your calories. Calories are energy, and that energy is measured in the form of calories. The body stores excess calories, so it converts those excess calories into fat and it stores them. To lose weight, a person must consume less calories than they burn in a day. So 3,500 calories are in 1 pound of stored body fat. So that means if somebody wants to lose 1 pound at the end of the week, that means at the end of the week, they need to be negative 3,500 calories. So how many calories per day would they have to take in less than they're currently taking in? So let's say I were taking in 2,500 calories per day. What would my calorie intake have to be in order for me to lose 1 pound? It would have to be 2,000. And the reason why that is because 500 times the amount of days, which would be 7, equals 3,500. So if I am taking in 500 less calories than I'm currently taking in, and I'm currently maintaining a steady body weight, that means that I'm going to lose 1 pound at the end of the week. Now, does it always have to come from your diet? No. How else can we burn calories? We can burn calories through working out. So it could be a combination of maybe decreasing your calorie intake as well as increasing your activity level. So you can have both work together in order to get into a caloric deficit. You don't have to ravage your diet in order to lose weight. That is a common misconception where someone would have to cut out so many calories, cut out so many foods. You can do so many simple things in order to decrease the amount of calories that you're taking in. Think about something as simple as not consuming soda, not consuming soft drinks. If you drink a liter of soda a day, right there, that's like 250, 300 calories right off the top. That's simple. That's easy. You cut that out, you exercise a little bit, boom, 500 less calories per day, and you're losing weight. All right, so make sure that you're making the smart decision. And we're going to take a look at some different food items and different meals, and you're going to replace them with foods that are similar. We're going to keep the same premise of the meal, but we're going to make better and healthier choices that are going to help you reduce your calories. And I'm going to give you some examples of that as well when we do that worksheet, which will be one of the review things at the end of this unit. So I want you to keep in mind that there are no quick fixes. There's no way that someone can instantly lose weight. If any type of fitness product or any type of fitness guru, and I'm using air quotes again, tries to promise that you're going to lose weight super fast, it's super easy, all you got to do is drink this 3 times a day. Nah, that's not going to work. It's going to be unhealthy. You never want to drop your calories extremely low, and there are a few reasons for that. The body can only convert around 2 pounds of body fat into energy every week. So when someone loses more weight than those 2 pounds, they're not losing fat, they're losing weight from other areas. Your carbohydrate stores, your glycogen stores decrease. Your water levels drop. Your protein, so if you're on an extremely low calorie diet, your body can actually consume protein, which is the muscle, and you'll lose weight that way. So you step on a scale, it might say you lose, oh man, I lost 8 pounds or 10 pounds this week. You're probably only losing about 2 pounds of body fat. And as soon as you begin eating normally again, you're going to gain all that weight back up and then some. And the reason why that is because of what's called yo-yo dieting. This is when someone goes on a crash diet. When they go on a crash diet, they drop their calories extremely low. Their muscle decreases over time, and you get what's called a yo-yo effect with their dieting. So when you think about metabolism and the calories that you're burning, they go hand in hand. When you drop your calories extremely low, the muscle also gets burned up. So when you begin eating normally again, your body is now burning less calories at rest because you have less muscle. Remember, that's one of the ways that the body can increase its metabolism is by having more muscle. So when you begin eating normally again, let's say you were here, everything dropped, now you're here, and I begin eating normally again, you're going to go and you're going to spike past that because your metabolism is lower. And that's what's called yo-yo dieting. It's when somebody goes on a crash diet, they lose weight, and then they begin eating normally again, and they surpass where they were. And they lose a lot of weight, and then they eat normally again, and they surpass where they were. So it keeps going down and then way up, down and way up. And that's called yo-yo dieting. You want to avoid that. Try to drop calories conservatively. Try to do it slowly, 1 to 2 pounds a week. If you do that, you're going to be in a good spot. If you have any questions, again, up top, you can see the emails. Make sure that you send us an email. Again, any of your teachers up here, you can send an email to. Also over here, make sure you check your Google Classrooms frequently. There will be some review for this as well as an exam or a test on there that you're going to complete based off of this unit. And again, don't hesitate to contact us. Thanks, and get ready to learn soon.